Here is the NFL Iceberg. Spygate. This is a reference to a scandal in which the New England Patriots were secretly videotaping opposing coaches' signals during games from 2000 to 2007 under head coach Bill Belichick. The scandal caught attention during the 2007 season when the Patriots were caught videotaping New York Jets defensive coaches' signals during a game on September 9, 2007. While videotaping opposing coaches is not illegal in the NFL per se, there are designated areas allowed by the league to do such taping. However, because the Patriots were instead videotaping the Jets coaches from their own sidelines during the game, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell deemed it to be a violation of league rules. Bill Belichick would be fined $500,000 for his role in the incident, and the Patriots organization was fined $250,000, as well as having their first-round draft pick revoked.
He even got caught cheating, and nobody cared. Bill Belichick proved that in America it's okay to cheat, as long as you cheat your way to the top.
This scandal opened the eyes to many fans as to what teams get up to behind closed doors, and how much cheating actually takes place behind the scenes. This also isn't the only cheating scandal to come from the Patriots, as we will discover later on. Tanking. Tanking is a concept developed by fans in which they believe that a given team is losing games on purpose, typically to boost their draft stock for the next season. Fans believe this phenomenon happens when a team realizes that they have nothing really to play for, typically when they've already been eliminated from playoff contention or have lost many games already. So, they intentionally throw the remainder of their games in order to get a higher draft pick. The way the NFL draft works is that teams who finish worse that season will have a higher draft pick than the teams that perform better. So, while it is possible that teams are actually doing this, no one has ever admitted to actually tanking and throwing games on purpose. Despite this, there's basically a team every year that gets accused of tanking, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that it does happen. Bountygate. Bountygate was an incident in which members of the New Orleans Saints were accused of paying out bonuses or bounties for injuring players on opposing teams. The pool was alleged to have been in operation from the 2009 season all the way up to the 2011-2012 playoffs. After the Saints had defeated the Minnesota Vikings in the 2009 NFC Championship game, several Vikings players and coaches claimed that the Saints were deliberately trying to hurt Vikings quarterback Brett Favre. The Vikings were particularly angered when Saints defensive end Bobby McCray knocked Favre to the ground with a high-low hit. McCray hit Favre below the knees, briefly knocking Favre out of the game with an ankle injury. In the 2010 offseason, an anonymous player told NFL officials that the Saints had targeted Favre as well as Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kurt Warner from the previous week as part of a bounty program administered by Saints defensive coordinator Greg Williams. In 2012, ESPN reported that former New Orleans Saints defensive assistant Mike Curello contacted the NFL regarding a bounty program after the 2009 postseason. He testified that he kept track of payments and pledges made. The NFL announced that it had obtained irrefutable proof of a bounty pool dating back to the 2009 season, based on a review of 18,000 documents. Between 22 and 27 Saints defensive players were involved, and Greg Williams would be suspended indefinitely until a later appeal, as well as head coach Sean Payton, who would be suspended the entire 2012 season for allegedly covering up the scandal during the NFL's investigation. The Saints organization was also fined $500,000 and were forced to forfeit a second-round draft pick for the next 2 seasons. The Madden Curse. Madden is the NFL licensed football game developed by EA Sports. Every year features a new game and also features a new player from the league on the cover. What's strange about this is the amount of players featured on the cover that have sustained injuries during the subsequent season. Garrison Hurst was the first player to appear on the cover of the Madden video game. He was having an amazing career until shortly after being featured on the cover, he would break his ankle. The injury was so severe that he would go on to miss 2 full seasons, and even when he returned, he was never the same player again. There are plenty of other examples like this. Rob Gronkowski was only able to start 6 games due to a plethora of injuries he was facing the season that he was featured on the cover of Madden 17. In Madden 07, Sean Alexander was featured on the cover and shortly after would fracture his foot, missing 6 games and never truly recovering from the injury, leading to his exit from the league soon after. Even players who seemingly beat the curse are still forced to endure some sort of negative effect during the season. Patrick Mahomes may have won the Super Bowl after being featured on the cover of Madden 20, however he still suffered an injury in the middle of the season that caused him to miss 2 full games. It's worth noting that some bad juju is associated with the curse as well as outside of just injury. Brett Favre's many controversies and his off-the-field antics slowly started to develop shortly after he was featured on the '09 Madden cover. Tom Brady losing the Super Bowl to a backup quarterback is also attributed to him being featured on the cover of Madden 18. Antonio Brown? Actually, we don't need to talk about Antonio Brown. You get the point. There are plenty of other examples for every player featured on the Madden cover, and it's led to fans to speculate how the curse will manifest itself in its next victim.
Ow! It's his knee. Doc! You'll never play football again.
Too bad, kid.
28-3. This lives rent-free in the minds of Falcons fans everywhere. 28-3 is the largest deficit overcome in a Super Bowl. It happened in Super Bowl 51 between the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons. During the game, the Falcons had built a 28-3 lead with only 2 minutes and 6 seconds left to go in the third quarter. What happened next is straight out of a movie. The Patriots would mount the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, scoring 2 touchdowns and a field goal, cutting the lead to 1 score, making it 28-20 with 3 minutes left in the game. The Falcons could seemingly put the game away with 1 more score, and it looked like they were going to get that score in the form of at least a field goal until a sack and then a holding penalty knocked them out of field goal range, and they were forced to punt it back to the Patriots. The rest, as they say, is history. The Patriots drove down the field and tied the game up with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to make it 28-28 and force overtime. The first, and to this day, only Super Bowl that has had to be decided in overtime. And sure enough, the Patriots would win the coin toss in overtime, receiving the ball first and driving all the way down the field to score a game-winning touchdown to end the game 34-28. It can't be understated how everything had to go right for the Patriots in 1 quarter of play. They had to score 3 touchdowns and a field goal, along with 2 2-point conversions, while also stopping the Falcons from scoring any more, just to tie the game. And then to win the overtime coin flip and drive all the way down the field to score a game-winning touchdown. This comeback was just so improbable, and it shocked NFL fans everywhere, including Falcons fans who now have had to live with the 28-3 joke ever since it happened. Seriously, you can't go too far talking about the Falcons without somebody bringing up the infamous 28-3 score. It's the closest the Falcons franchise has ever gotten to a Super Bowl victory, and unfortunately, coming up short and blowing leads has become synonymous with the Atlanta Falcons franchise.
Do you love me or not?
I don't.
The tuck rule. The tuck rule is an infamous rule in the NFL that negates a fumble. If you're unfamiliar with the rules of American football, a fumble is when an offensive player loses possession of the football before he is tackled. When that happens, the defense has the opportunity to take the ball and give possession over to their offense. As long as the offensive player isn't tackled and brought to the ground before the ball comes loose, it is a fumble. However, the rules become a little different when it comes to throwing the ball. If the player throwing the ball fumbles, then they'd have had to have lost control of the ball before their arm was moving forward. If their arm was going forward while losing possession of the ball, then it is treated as an incomplete pass instead of a fumble. I hope that makes sense to anyone watching who's not familiar with the rules. Basically, if the arm is going forward, it's not a fumble, just an incomplete pass, and the defense doesn't have the opportunity to take possession. This is where the tuck rule comes into play. In a game now referred to as the tuck rule game, this rule came into play in a very strange way. In a 2002 divisional round playoff game between the Oakland Raiders and the New England Patriots, the Raiders were leading 13-10 with 2 minutes left to go in the game. The Raiders defense hit Tom Brady, in which it seemed like Brady had fumbled the ball and the Raiders recovered, which would have allowed them to close out the game and win. However, when the fumble was reviewed, it was revealed that Brady lost possession of the ball as he was going to tuck the ball away to protect it. This is when fans first learned about the tuck rule, in which here is how it is stated in the official NFL rulebook. Any intentional forward movement of the arm starts a forward pass, even if the player loses possession of the ball as he is attempting to tuck it back towards his body. If the player has tucked the ball into his body and then loses possession, it is a fumble. So basically, when Tom Brady tried to tuck the ball away in order to protect it, it was treated as a pass that fell incomplete. So instead of the Raiders getting possession and winning the game, the Patriots maintained possession of the ball, and sure enough, they would go on to win the game. This moment is infamous in NFL history, as most fans never knew about this tuck rule, and many still believe that it should have been a fumble to this day. So, it is a rule, just a very strange one that ended up costing the Raiders, and many point to this as the moment of the Raiders' downfall as a franchise. They were once considered one of the greatest franchises in the league, but since this moment, they have not won a single playoff game, and in fact have only made the playoffs twice in the past 20 years. The tuck rule to Raiders fans is basically what 28-3 is to Falcons fans. Deflate Gate. What a surprise, another cheating scandal involving the Patriots. The 2015 AFC Championship game matched up the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. The game was played in a very heavy rainfall, and after the end of the first half, when the Patriots were leading 17-7, an NFL referee decided to examine one of the Patriots' game balls, and later proceeded to examine all 12 that the team had provided. He found that they were all below the minimum air pressure required by the league. The official rules of the National Football League require footballs to be inflated to a gauge pressure of between 12.5 and 13.5 pounds per square inch. There's a lot of conflicting reports, but the official NFL investigation reported that one game ball was 2 pounds below the required minimum, while the other 11 game balls were just a few ticks under. The idea being that Tom Brady had the Patriots organization intentionally reduce the air pressure in the game balls to allow for easier grip while handling the ball in difficult weather conditions. Brady, of course, denied the allegations, with most opposition arguing that the cold weather plays a factor in decreased air pressure, and overall it really doesn't make a difference. And while this is true and definitely could play a factor, the investigation still does show a discrepancy in the Colts game balls, in which, while there are drops in air pressure between both teams, the game balls used by the Patriots were consistently a few ticks under the Colts game balls. So the debates have continued as to whether or not the Patriots deflated their game balls on purpose in order to gain an unfair advantage, or if it was just a strange discrepancy that really didn't play a factor into the game. After the game balls were reinflated for the second half, the Patriots proceeded to outscore the Colts 28-0 and would win the game in a 45-7 blowout. So yeah, I honestly don't think it made much of a difference, nor did it really matter. The Patriots were just obviously the better team. This, however, did not stop the NFL from handing down a series of punishments for the incident. Tom Brady would be suspended 4 games, and the Patriots would be fined $1 million, as well as having their first and 4th round draft picks taken away. Super Bowl hangover. The Super Bowl hangover is a reference to teams who made it to the Super Bowl and significantly underperformed the following season. It's mostly a joke. However, the phenomenon was first brought up in the 2000s when a series of Super Bowl runner-up teams from 2001 to 2007 would all fail to even make the playoffs the next season. The 2001 Giants, the 2002 Rams, the 2003 Raiders, the 2004 Panthers, the 2005 Eagles, and the 2007 Bears would all miss the playoffs the season after they lost the Super Bowl. This led to the term Super Bowl hangover, and is now used as a reference of any team that makes it to the Super Bowl and performs poorly the next season.